This is the real state capture we are seeing today. If the Guptas did a state capture, they were playing. Every day we witness government leaders openly looting state resources, pursuing self-enrichment without shame, while the people of Hammanskraal lack access to clean water and drinkable water. The people of Spreadview in Mooiplaas live in a dump site. The residents of Strata in Alexander are packed together like rats, and children in the Eastern Cape continue to use pit toilets, yet your state president goes and unveils Mandela's statue. Reserve Bank has got no business in participating in the ownership of banks. We take the African bank, we make that bank commercial, we make loans accessible to black people who are always rejected when they ask for the loans for simply because they are black. We need a bank that will be biased to the working class. We need a bank that will be biased to the Africans. We need a bank that will make you be able to buy houses and be able to buy cars, because transport is not luxury but a necessity. And today, 11.9 million people are unemployed. The unemployment rate today is 42.4%. What is more concerning is the fact that for the first time in the post-apartheid South Africa, more than 50% of people who could be at institutions of higher learning, training or employment are sitting at home doing nothing. In 2013, the inflation rate stood at 5.7%. However, as of the end of 2022, the inflation rate was recorded at 6.9%. The lending interest rate was a little over 8% in 2018. Today, the figures has increased to 11.75%. Many of the working class families and small businesses already under pressure will lose their homes and livelihoods. Government finances have deteriorated even further than they were when we formed the EFF in 2018. And this demonstrates the mismanagement of economic policy. While we speak of numbers, those of you in the business community have experienced this firsthand. In 2013, the debt service costs were recorded at 88.3 billion, constituting 2.8% of the GDP. Today, the figures has increased almost fourfold to over 340 billion a year. Today, we spend more on servicing our loans as a country than we do on basic education, and we spend more on servicing our loans than we do on health. Our nation's overall gross loan debt has increased from 1.4 trillion, which represented 38.6% of the GDP in 2018, to 4.3 trillion, accounting for 73.6% of our GDP. These figures are not only a reflection of the worsening state of the economy or public finances, but it is also a clear indication that the much celebrated national treasury is not celebrated for managing our finances properly. The national treasury is celebrated for insisting on neoliberal policies, even when there is empirical evidence that these policies are doing more damage than good, particularly for businesses. We must take a closer look at the role of the national treasury in the collapse of our economy and public finances. We are not surprised by reports that the same department has the highest number of unqualified senior managers. The challenge we face as a country is not only the collapse of the economy and our public finances. There is a deliberate collapse of strategic state-owned companies that should be at the forefront of South Africa's reindustrialization and development. Also, it is the very same SOEs that must create downstream opportunities in logistics, energy generation, manufacturing, and other key sectors for business. Take a look at Dinan, for example. For the past 3 years, the company has struggled to pay salaries for its roughly 2,800 employees. Employees were forced to go to court to get their salaries. Even when Parliament approved an additional 3 billion in 2022, we're told that none of the new allocation can be used to pay workers' salaries. Instead, Banks and loans were prioritized over workers who were losing their homes and were struggling to feed their families. When we formed the EFF in 2018, Dinero was making 17 million profit and their revenue were close to 3.9 billion a year. All 4,200 employees were paid and were paid on time. Today, the staff is gone and revenue halved to 1.9 billion. In 2018, Transnet, I'm told Gama was supposed to, I hope he's here. Transnet used to make profit under Gama, who has joined us here today. Transnet was making 4.3 billion profit and had 50 billion in revenue. The company managed to remain profitable due to high port and pipeline volumes. There have been attempts to sabotage Transnet in order to justify privatizing the company. Today, we are informed that Transnet infrastructure, such as ports, is being privatized without any consideration for how this will affect small and emerging businesses. And I said to Gama, because he did good for our people when he was a CEO, they never got anything. Floyd never got anything. So when I say I must know, I also refer to Floyd. We're one thing. So I get, he gets. If I don't get, doesn't get. So we never got anything, nothing. But I said to him because he was a good man who did good for our own state-owned company, and he was victimized for being black and African in particular. I've said to him many times, if you need support of the EFF in terms of legal representatives, we are here to give you the best lawyers and will pay for them because you are a good servant of our people. And all this will came after you destroys what looks to be a pride of our nation. I hope Mugai Toby or Advocate Borders know that a case that they will do for free is coming their way. ESCOM is the blood of our economy. Without electricity, we don't have an economy. Job creation is stifled, and for many people, putting food on the table becomes challenging. The Township Entrepreneurs Alliance conducted a survey earlier this year. It revealed that during load-shedding periods, 64% of township small businesses ceased operations. Over 66% of businesses owners reported retrenching workers due to load-shedding. NERSA increases electricity prices and attributes the rise to load-shedding. The South African Reserve Bank increases interest rates, blaming load-shedding. Stats SA reports that more than 11 million people are unemployed, attributing it to load shedding. Food prices surge and it's blamed on food security. In the midst of this crisis, there are people who are hell-bent on privatization of electricity generation for the sake of profits that will benefit only a few interested in quick profit. The premature closure of the Komati power station was not just misguided. Is the epitome of the industrial scale looting that is happening before us. This is the real state capture we are seeing today. If the Guptas did a state capture, they were playing. What we are experiencing today with ESCOM makes Guptas look like a joke. Today, more than 300 people in communities near Camden, Grootvlei and Hendrina, who were promised training as part of the so-called just transition when the Komati power station was shut down, are still waiting stranded, unemployed and without income. But the collapse of the economy, public finance and state-owned enterprises is just a symptom of a far broader systematic problem, corruption. When we formed the EFF, we correctly characterized South Africa as a kleptocracy. Those close to political leaders will continue to grow richer and more corrupt because they know that their proximity to these leaders grants them immunity from prosecution. When we write questions in Parliament to probe questionable contracts and tenders, we are confronted with talk of confidentiality and classified reports. The victims of corruption are not only the poor. The business suffers the same fate when you institutionalize corruption and protect those in office from investigation and prosecution. Those with talent, hard work, Entrepreneurial spirit will be overlooked. This is how you stifle innovation, hard work, growth, and societal progress. What is even more concerning is the fact that you can face prosecution for being seen with the leadership of the EFF, for refusing to support certain ANC leaders, or for choosing to speak out against corruption. You can be arrested for reporting corruption and have the one who is corrupt promoted to the highest office in the land. We have a personal experience of persecution that are motivated by political vendettas and agendas. We are not speaking about things we know nothing of. We are aware of many young business people who have suffered the same fate and continue to suffer. This is the background against which we formed the EFF. To fully appreciate the journey we have traveled thus far, we encourage those who have not had a chance to read our founding manifesto to do so. It will give you a broader appreciation of what you have contributed to and continue to support. We do not only characterize the current political and economic condition of South Africa, we go even further. We offer concrete and practical solutions to many of the challenges facing South Africa. We understand that some in the business community might overlook the solutions the EFF proposes under the assumption that they will not benefit. However, a closer look will reveal that while we have unapologetically placed the working class, the poor and the marginalized as the primary and immediate beneficiaries of our struggle for economic freedom, our strategic mission is to create a system that will guarantee meaningful economic participation for all, including the business community. Take, for example, our cardinal pillar number 1, land expropriation without compensation for equal redistribution in use. We maintain that all the land should be transferred to the ownership and custodianship of the state. Despite all the mischaracterizations and attempts to demonize this demand of many black Africans, this remains a bold move towards restorative justice and a path towards transferring wealth to the majority of the people. Many critics claim this will not work, that it will hurt business and South Africa will descend into chaos. But we disagree, and here is why. First of all, there is not the first time South Africa transfers strategic natural resources into the custodianship of the state in an attempt to address the colonial and apartheid imbalances. We have successfully transferred mineral and petroleum resources into the custody of the state in 2002. Today, you need a license to prospect and mine any mineral resources. Even with the license, the minerals still belong to the state on behalf of the people of South Africa. The same applies to water. All water is subject to the state control. None of you here has ever woken up one day and said, because the water is owned by the state, I feel like a less owner of my water that comes out of my tap. Yet you are not the owner of the water. The water is state-owned. You have never felt like the water coming through your tap is brought to you by someone else. You always felt that it is your water. Even when your children play with it, you always say to them, do not play with my water. You never said to them, do not play with the state water, because you know you are the state. We assert that the state custodianship of the land under democratic and effective state will give businesses a predictable business environment. Our policy is that business will get land use licenses for 25 years, which can be renewed if the land is used as planned. This is not only about history deciding who gets what, where the beneficiaries of colonialism and apartheid will continue to benefit. We must address historical imbalances, support innovation, value creation, and entrepreneurial spirit. What many people don't know is that many multinational corporations are not interested in owning land. They will prefer a situation where they lease land in special economic zones with secured land tenure to operate their business. No one owns land in Atlantis Special Economic Zone. No one owns land in Komazi Special Economic Zone. Richards Bay, Industrial Zone, East London Industrial Zone, Dubai Trade Port, and other special economic zones. Those are multinational companies that have invested billions on that part of the land, yet they do not own the land. Business does not need to own the land. It needs a guarantee of a land tenure. And that's what business should be obsessed with, not to be obsessed with I own this or that. As long as you are guaranteed that your investment will come back and the government will protect your occupation of that land, it's enough. Companies set up operations in these special economic zones because they have land tenure security. They get access to preferential 15% corporate income tax. They qualify for tax relief, building allowance, and many other businesses benefits. We'll soon introduce this in the Ekurhuleni municipality where we own. If you pay closer attention to the details, the EFF land policy assures a supply to the private sector and businesses. Consider agriculture, for example. Small-scale farmers will receive meaningful state subsidies, support and protection. This is the only way we can rebuild the agricultural sector into a vibrant sector and support of the young black women and men who are venturing into this sector. From this, we can build a steady local supply for businesses in food production, packaging and retail. But we go further, and I said that to ensure that agriculture is sustainable, the government must source over half of its food needs from small-scale farmers. The government procures a lot of food for school nutrition programs, for hospitals, correctional facilities, police training facilities, the army, and many other facilities. This will guarantee constant demand and sustainability of agriculture and many other sectors. Our land expropriation policy is not just about correcting historical imbalances. It is also about economic growth, fair competition, and transferring wealth from the few to the many. We can correct historical imbalances and grow the economy at the same time. Other example is our proposal for the nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation. We are often told that nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy will collapse the entire economy, but we see it differently. When the state controls strategic sectors of the economy, we do not only protect our wealth as a nation, we are also able to plan long-term and transform our society in a much coordinated manner. We need to control land, mineral resources, telecommunication, and transport infrastructure because the development of these sectors should be for the collective benefit of all and not for profit. We are not saying that business should not participate in these sectors, but the development of these strategic sectors will inherently stimulate industrialization and beneficiation within the country. You will need local business to have robust capacity to respond to the demands of downstream development, and this will require the development and promotion of skills. This is one of the many ways we can reduce the cost of manufacturing and incentivize many of the businesses that have relocated their factories to other parts of the world, such as China and India, where the state controls the development of strategic sectors of the economy for the benefit of industrialization and rapid economic growth. Like expropriation of land without compensation, nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy are very important to ensure that all of us benefit and not only the politically connected few. When we arrived in Parliament in 2014, members of Parliament were not aware that legislation did not permit state-owned companies to apply for commercial bank licenses because of how the Bank Act of 1990 is structured. It was the EFF Banks Amendment Bill we tabled in May 2018, which today allows state-owned companies to apply for a full commercial bank license and operate like mainstreams, banks like FNB, Standard Bank, Absa, and other commercial banks. We also introduced the South African Reserve Bank Amendment Bill to nationalize the central bank. Once the bill is passed, we should be able to have a much more frank debate about the mandate of the central bank and how its mandate should be broadened beyond protecting the value of money, but also to support employment, transformation of the financial sector, and ensure that black people can create their own financial institution that transfer wealth to the majority of our people. We really don't understand as to why are the banks, commercial banks, opposed to the state owning a bank. Because in everything where you find the private sector, there is a state ownership. Let's go to hospitals. There is a state-owned hospitals. There is private-owned hospitals. Let's go to schools. There is state-owned schools. There is private-owned schools. They still make profit even when they are state-owned schools and state-owned hospitals. Their profit has never been affected by the ownership of the state on any sector of the economy. Yet they oppose the ownership of the bank by the state. We really do not understand why should the Reserve Bank own shares as a regulator in the African bank. The Reserve Bank must transfer those bank shares to the Treasury, which will own the African bank on behalf of the state, because Reserve Bank has got no business in participating in the ownership of banks. We take the African bank, we make that bank commercial, we make loans accessible to black people who are always rejected when they ask for the loans, for simply because they are black. We need a bank that will be biased to the working class. We need a bank that will be biased to the Africans. We need a bank that will make you be able to buy houses and be able to buy cars, because transport is not luxury but a necessity. Fighters consider the cardinal pillar on building state and government capacity that will lead to the establishment to abolishment of tenders, for example. The business stands to benefit. We don't want businesses that are bloody suckers from government. We need businesses that are innovative. Why should there be a tender to buy toilet papers? These people who work in government do not know where toilet papers are sold. We need to build the state capacity to go and buy toilet papers. Why should there be a tender to clean when there are so many mothers of ours and fathers who clean every day at home without a tender? But when it comes to government, a tender is required for people to be hired to go and clean. Why should there be a tender to put a toilet? Because the villagers dig toilets every day without a tender. But when you come to Ikurule, there is toilet tender that is given out instead of empowering communities with the necessary equipment to do and build their own toilets. It is these unstrategic things which lack innovation that leads to corruption. Why must you be known that you are a tenderpreneur? There are people who have been in the toilet business for some time without tenders, because they don't rely on tenders. They make sure that it's not only about the toilet, it's about everything else that goes with the hygiene that comes with the toilet. And as a result, they've made it in business by supplying toilet to private individuals, to business without tenders, by making sure they are innovative and creative. But these ones who are saying they are opposed to the EFF policy on abolishment of tenders is because they've got nothing to offer except the political connection. And that is corruption, and EFF requires no such business people who thrive through corruption. Our goal is to transition from a nation that exports raw material and imports finished goods to one that exports manufactured goods and services. This not only diversifies our trade profile but also strengthens our internal capacity, leading to job creation and skills development. This is the most practical way to shift from exports led by platinum, gold, iron ore, diamonds, and coal to labor-intensive export sectors such as textile, furniture, and wood production, footwear and leather goods, seafood processing and agro-processing, semi-finished and finished goods. However, none of these changes can occur unless we tackle corruption head-on. We must strive for open, accountable, corrupt-free government and society free from fear of being victimized by the state. And we must do this aggressively and unapologetically. This is why we advocate for state agencies to possess the necessary relative autonomy, freeing them from the micromanagement and manipulation of the state. The head of the National Prosecuting Authority, the Public Protector, Usim Kweban, is also here with us today. The National Police Commissioner, all Chapter 9 institutions should be appointed by a joint merit-based process involving the executive, parliament, and judiciary. There should not be appointment by a president who could potentially manipulate those appointed through his or her capacity to make such appointment. Advocate Busiswe Mkhwebane is such an example of how the president can abuse his power if he's allowed to appoint the public protector. The public protector, Busiswe Mkhwebane, was suspended because he asked questions. He sent questions to the president. And the president said, how do you ask the big men questions? Where's you, African woman? You are disrespectful. From today you shall be harassed until you see your grave. Worry not, African woman. We are here with you. We'll travel this journey with you until you are vindicated. One day history will absolve you. Commissars, fighters, and friends, reflecting on our journey and vision for the future of South Africa, it's important to acknowledge some of the milestones we have achieved, guided by the founding non-negotiable principles. When we arrived in Parliament, ANC members didn't know anything called illicit financial flows. Every time we spoke about illicit financial flows, they used to pull us aside. Can you explain this thing? That's when we suggested in Parliament, can we please have a joint workshop on illicit financial flows by the Portfolio Committee of Trade and Industry and Standing Committee on Finance in May 2015. For the first time they had that. There was something called illicit financial flows and tax avoidance. We arrived in Parliament to educate the illiterates. We have not only raised awareness but also provided practical solutions. We have offered concrete proposals for laws and policies that will combat illicit financial flows and curb base erosion and profit shifting. We also extended our efforts beyond Parliament and making oral submission to the Davis Tax Committee in July 2015. These actions have led to real results. For example, today, an interagency team led by the Financial Intelligence Center and including the National Prosecuting Authority, the Director of Priority Crime Investigation, and the South African Revenue Services works to combat illicit financial flows. This collective effort was born out of our assertion that without cooperation between state institutions, these illicit flows will persist unchecked. We called it a cross-agency task team, a multidisciplinary team, and they call it inter-agency team, but it's the same concept we introduced when we arrived in Parliament. These are the people who say we are owned and controlled by Mazoti that they accuse of engaging in illicit financial cigarettes and all of that. Why would we engage as an organization of Mazoti in combating illicit financial flows to a point where we come up with committees to check that we avoid these illicit financial flows because we do not agree with anything that wants to undermine the law. And if Mazoti was owning the EFF or if Mazoti was engaged in illicit cigarette, he will not finance or support an organization that will undermine his operation to maximize his profit. So these two do not speak to each other. He supports this organization because he too is tired of illicit cigarette and illicit financial EFF should fight more to combat corruption and make sure that we restore South Africa to its former glory. Comrades, ESCOM has collapsed. There is nothing more we can do to save ESCOM for as long as these people who are in government now continue to control this government. We have said, fighters, it would be unwise to reflect on the past 10 years of unbroken struggle and not speak about how these people have collapsed the most important organ of our state. In everything we will do in future, we must ensure that there is a dependable supply of electricity. Without electricity, many of our people who have supported us in the past will be left with no choice but to either close their operations or opt for relocation to other parts of the world where there is a reliable supply of electricity. We have made concrete proposals on various platforms and in areas where we govern, such as Ikuruleni, Nelson Mandela Bay, and eThekwini, will continue to implement this. We must do everything in our power to ensure that there is electricity supply to all essential services and business. For as long as business does not get electricity, we must forget about growing the economy and creating jobs for most of our unemployed young people. We must look at the short and medium-term solutions, which will use a combination of hybrids, off-grid, microgrid electricity solutions. We must engage trade partners in China and Russia who are willing to build, operate, and transfer contracts to build additional electricity generation capacity in shorter time frames in a more affordable way. We should continue to demand the National Treasury and all relevant departments and ministers establish a comprehensive conditional grant which will assist municipalities with hybrid and off-grid solutions that support businesses to continue operate even during load shedding. We must help all women to get business opportunities in both private and public sector. Our inability to empower women will perpetuate apartheid and colonial legacy. The youth, together with our women, should be at the center of our economic emancipation. We must empower women without seeking any favor from those women. Because anyone who asks women or who wants to empower women and asks for sexual favors, that person is equally a rapist. If you hire women in exchange for sex, you are a rapist. If you give women business in exchange for sex, you are a rapist. You are not different from murderers, and you must be ashamed of yourself. When it comes to business, we must never look at sex as a prerequisite for the empowerment of our women. They are equally capable. They are not a tool to be used in a bedroom. They have the right to get all the amounts of tenders we give to men. They've got the right to be CFOs, and they can make better CFOs. Ask me, I know with this one of mine. If you give her money, you will struggle to get it back from her. You give her money and say, this is your money. She puts it and asks you for more money for food at home. And you say to her, what do you mean? Because I just gave you money. Oh, I thought it's mine. And then there will be another money for the house. That's how much they know budgeting women. They will sort all these problems for us. Because where women lead, they lead better. And that's what this corrupt and collapsed government needs today. Capable women who can take our government forward. Comrades, we must hire highly qualified people. And if you are a fighter and you are seated here and you have no qualifications, please know you have no place in the government of the EFF. I do not debate the CV of a person. Once the requirements are out and they say so and so is interested in the job but does not qualify, my response is always is, which I was taught by Kassan Matale, by the way, find a suitable candidate. I don't care whether you are my friend or my relative. I will never hire you if you don't have the necessary qualification, because that is tantamount to killing our people. Today, we have a problem of sewer, we have a problem of potholes, we we have a problem of the inability to deliver the most basic service delivery because we did not hire people with qualifications. We hired who could shout the loudest slogan. We hired the most factionalist. We hired who supported the mayor during the ANC campaign, not who is the best man for the job. I don't care whether you are a UDM member or the ANC member or a DA member, as long as you are a South African and suitable for the job, you have a place in the government of the EFF. Your political affiliation means nothing to us. We want services delivered to our people. Fighters, service delivery must be at the center of everything we do. Service to our people should be at the center of everything we do, especially services to our black people. Big companies should, through procurement policy, be excluded from tenders like cleaning and supply. We need lifestyle audit of the officials in Treasury and procurement officials in all departments at all levels of government. Because people earn very little money in government, yet they stay in Serengeti with big houses and big cars. And this is just a mere clerk in the procurement department or finance department of Ikuruleni. You ask yourself, how does this person afford to get all of this? It is because they say to business people, before I pay your invoice, you have to give me 10% of your invoice, then I will process your invoice. All of these thugs must be arrested and locked up because they are the ones who have collapsed many businesses in Ikuruleni, in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, and everywhere else. We must never be friends with the so-called 30% cartels that have collapsed Eskom and that are collapsing eThekwini and many other municipalities. 30% cartels are nothing else but a gangster. A revolutionary can never be associated with gangsters. Every business person who got the job to do in Ikuruleni must be protected by all fighters and community members to conclude that job without intimidation by 30% gangsters that exist everywhere else in South Africa. Otherwise, this country will become a gangster paradise. We must not fear criminals. No one owns or has got a monopoly of violence. As revolutionaries, we must never fear, must not be fearful of death, because we know that ultimately death will visit us. We must never be scared of anyone who seeks to undermine development of our country because he protects his criminal friends. All of us, as revolutionaries, must be at the front line to defend community development and fight crime and women abuse and child abuse. None of us must be found in conflict with their partners because you think you are the power that can never be touched. Everybody in South Africa that behaves like an untouchable, all EFF members must go and touch that person. No one is untouchable in South Africa. No one, including the children of the drug lords who go around bullying people in their clubs, who go around bullying people in their businesses because their fathers are known for being drug lords. We are not scared of you and your father, and we are not scared of you and your gangsters. This is a free country that all of us must trade for free without fearing anyone. Once I meet the requirement, that is the beginning and the end. I must never pay anyone out of intimidation. I must never pay anyone because my invoice must be paid. I must never pay anyone because I must get another job in the next tender. The day they give you an appointment letter, you will meet them again when you hand over that which you were appointed to do. And that should be a principle that characterized a businessman of the EFF. Do not fear these cowards. All of them, they are cowards. They pretend like they are brave. They are scared of change. They are scared of death. And when we take over, we will demonstrate to you that we do not play with thugs. We put thugs to their place and will send them to jail for a very long time, because South Africa has got no place for criminals. Why should people who pay tax, why should people who fear the law, why should people who are law-abiding be the ones with the high walls, and all of criminals and murderers stay in houses without walls, yet they do not respect the law? We who respect the law are scared of criminals, that's why we build big walls. But criminals live freely without big walls. Under the EFF government, we shall stop that. Criminals will fear the law, and the law-abiding citizens will abolish the big walls, and they will appreciate the beauty of their gardens without fear, because the state will protect them. Comrades, I was born to an epileptic single mother who said to me, Silo, the day you were born, God knew how you were going to die. And therefore, you must never be scared of death, because it will come. It doesn't matter how beautiful you behave, you will die one day. And that's why I'm not scared of anything. I do that which I think in my conscience is the right thing. I don't care the amount of torture or intimidation or persecution. I'm guided by my political beliefs. Once I believe this is a correct thing to do, we do it. I don't care who says what. I know that one day history will absolve me. It was me and Floyd who sat the two of us in my house in Sandton, and we asked the question, what is the next step? My answer to him was, Floyd, we must make sure we don't go back to Polokwane if we are going to fight back these people. We must do everything in our power to stay in Johannesburg, because in Polokwane we will not get the necessary support we want. We gathered every little resource that was left and made sure we serviced our rent for the whole year. Then took a decision that we are going to fight them, and we are going to fight them hard. We did so, both of us, joined by many other revolutionaries, in the journey to build this solid organization. Not a single day did I feel that Floyd is in the business of trying to betray me. He has never, not on a single day, showed me any sign of disrespect. He has always shown maximum respect to me, and always expressed his views to me in a respectful manner. There's never been a day where I thought he and Floyd will not see each other the following day. We have always looked forward to seeing each other, to exchange ideas robustly. But there's something boring about it. Every time we drink, he waits until he gets sharp, and then he isolates me to a corner and wants to sharpen some idea he believes I didn't hear. And that time I'm focused on dancing, even when I don't know how to dance. The guy will be trying to put some perspective into my mind, but he doesn't know, because I'm more experienced than him. I will call either Mwiseni or Vuyani and say, come and listen here, this is a very important thing. When he comes and shifts his focus to Mwiseni or Vuyani, that way I disappear. And then I will see him the other day. He's a thinker, and he rides around 2 a.m. in the morning. And he can't ride without seeing the stars or without the moon. When he rides, he wants to sit outside and connect with the spirit and his God. He's a strong believer in God. He's a very strong believer who, when he wants sharp ideas, despite having read a lot, he still seeks wisdom, so that whatever he writes makes sense. We complement each other like that. Yes. We are not in a competition with each other. And I've made it very clear to Floyd, the day you get tired of me, don't go and organize against me. Just tell me, I think you have served your term. It is time to go. I will leave without putting up a fight, because I will know it's a friendly fire and it comes from a good place. The problem starts when you start organizing against me, and I hear it in the corners. I'm very ruthless against people who do such things to me. So never try that. And he knows that, because I've never lost a conference in my entire life. And no one I supported has ever lost a conference in my entire life. I'm a tactician. I always plan my way, and I always plan to the extreme. When I get married, I imagine the day of divorce. I don't stay on the day of happiness. I've already lived my day of divorce. Even when they visit me, they will never shake me, because I've seen them before. I plan in advance. Even with politics, the day I get into a position, that is the day I prepare my exit. That's why I will never trouble you. When they expelled me, I never put up a fight. I went to farm cabbages, and they followed me. And once you follow me, I told you, do not conspire against me in the corners, because I will plan my comeback. And when I do so, I'm very ruthless. I don't play games. And I do so without hesitation. I tell you on your face, a war has been declared. Let's fight. Because I'm not a coward. I don't conspire around against this. I will. Comrades, all of these people who have worked with me, Darling Kofu, Godrich Gadi, Ian Mateis, Kengwem Kalipi, all of them know that we don't have to be friends. They know that I want work ethics. That we must all do that which is expected from us. You must be loyal. You must serve the cause. You must be disciplined and serve the organization. By serving the organization, you are serving your people. I've worked with them. For the first time, I never had to fight with them, because we all did what was expected of us. Dali was one of the oldest, followed by Godrich. Not once did they go around boasting with their age. They have always said, this is our leader and shall be given the respect it requires, and we shall serve to the best of our ability. They did so until they released themselves to concentrate on their professions. That's what leadership is about. Same thing with the current leadership of Marshal Dlamini, Opima Iluga, Veronica Mente, Ompile Mautu. All of us were here to serve. We don't have to be the best of friends. We don't have to be the relatives. Don't force yourself to do the EFF work. It must come from your belly. Yes. It must be that you want to do it. Don't do it and go around boasting and giving us attitude as if you are doing us a favor. You have done it so beautifully. That's why all the activities we have planned, they have become successful, because comrades have woken up in the morning and went to do what is expected of them. That is what we are known for. These 10 years is the 10 years of hard work by hard-working women and men who are disciplined and ready to serve. Ego will never help any of us. We always have to humble ourselves and serve the people of South Africa. Let me thank the Shivambu family. I know what you have went through. I know what your children are going through. Some of them will never be employed because they carry your surname. By virtue of the association with Floyd and me, worry not. The revolution will never swallow its own children. It will look after them. It will never abandon them. I know that Floyd bought his parents a house, and at some point they wanted to take it from his parents because they wanted to inflict pain in him and throw his parents away. And when he told me that story, that the house of his parents was in danger, I had no worry at all. Nothing shaken me, because I knew he was now paying the price. That's what you must pay Floyd for standing against the establishment. They will not in exchange give you roses. They are going to fight back, and they are going to fight back very hard. When that visits you, do not despair, because I've been there before. The only thing I did, I confronted them, and I was too young, and I confronted them and I won against them. I'm too old now, married man with 3 boys. I can't be scared of them. When I was not scared of them when I was young. Don't be scared of them. They always threaten. They've got no teeth to bite. They want to see to what extent can you push. And I've seen you pushing against the establishment. And the establishment is not happy with you. And they know that you are not happy with them. The feeling is mutual. I thank the Malema family. Just 3 weeks ago, SARS visited my aunt's home because his son was associated with me. And that because they wanted to inflict pain in me, they could not find me. They could not stop at anything but to go and intimidate my aunt in a house with her husband, which has got no address of my cousin, has got no name of my cousin, but because they knew where the mother stayed, they just wanted to bully her and intimidate her. When my cousin called me, I was at the school of my child, my last born, with my wife, playing on a carpet. I did not see his so many missed calls because the boy was so scared. He didn't know what was going to happen to his mother's house. And when I called him and I asked him what's happening, why so many calls? He said SARS and the sheriff and this and that were at my mom's house, so I didn't know what to do and all of that. I just responded to him in one way: I'll call back, do not worry. And that's when I started pressing the buttons. Every politician needs his Indian. I called him all. I said to him, there is a problem coming. And I can tell you we are at 99% of resolving it. No amount of those things can ever intimidate me. And even with person who comes with such problems, I've seen it all when I was too young. I've lived a life of an 80-year-old at 42 years old. So I carry with me the hopes of lots of families, and I have no reason to fear, because if I'm scared, these families will be in a devastated situation. My family has always stood by me. My aunts have always stood by me. My cousins have always stood by me. My friends have always stood by me. I am nothing without you. That's why I will forever be indebted to you. All of you have always come around me and made sure that you provided a wall of protection. You still do the same to date. One of my cousins abandoned his businesses just recently to go and stay at the EFF farm to oversee the slaughtering of 100 cows and make sure that everything goes accordingly. I don't confuse that to be stupidity. I know that that is support. Our mothers taught us that. When your mom was still alive, would have been here and would have done the same. You carried the baton from your mom and continued with it. So there's nothing special you are doing except to follow in your steps of your mother. I always watch from a distance, and I don't talk a lot when it comes to those issues, but I appreciate those types of interventions that all of you individually always make to make sure that I succeed, and in extension our organization succeed. I know that many of you will have been rich by now, many of you will be working in prominent positions by now, but the surname Malema has costed you. I've not chosen to be your cousin, neither did you choose to be my cousin. We find ourselves in this situation. We have to carry it, all of us. My wife is going to be more difficult going forward, because as the state loses power, the state becomes more mad. So you should be ready for more challenges ahead. Because you were there when we started, and you came in when we were already in the Parliament of South Africa. Now we're moving into government, and the enemy is not happy. The first thing the enemy will do is to attack the home so that they can weaken. If they find a weak partner, they will collapse this house of my grandmother. This family of mine belongs not to me, it belongs to my grandmother. This organization doesn't belong to me, it belongs to my grandmother and the people of South Africa. And I've said to a grave, I will never fail you, and I will never fail you. Thank you.
Another round of applause for the President of the EFF. Thank you very much, the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the EFF. We are going to continue with our program. We have to minimize the levels of the noise, because our program has to run very smoothly. And earlier on, when the President referred to the contribution of women to the economy, I looked around the house and I saw too much masculinity. And the face of economy in this country is men. That is why this house is almost having too many of the men than women. That has to change. As the organization, we believe in giving back, and we continue to give services to the people of this sub-country. And we have a social program of giving back to the people. Ever since we started with all the activities of the 10th anniversary, we started identifying homes around the country in each and every province. It's either a children's home or an old age home. I'm going to call upon our communications to now play the work of the EFF that we have been doing, to show you that as much as we are not in government in the entire country, but what we say we will do and commit to, it gets done. We'll never leave our people for as long as we can afford to save their lives. Commissar Tambo, I'm giving over to you to play.
We are doing long-lasting legacy projects. That people will remember that when EFF turned 10 years, this is what it did for us.